morning sun rose over the dusty hills of New Dawn Valley, a small human farming colony far from the great cities. Life there was quiet, simple, and honest. People grew crops, traded in the market, and talked about the same few things every day: weather, harvest, and gossip. But that day the gossip was loud. Everyone was talking about Eli, the lonely farmer who lived at the edge of the valley. "Did you see what he brought home?" One man laughed at the tavern. "Smelled worse than a dead swamp beast," said another. "And he calls it a girl?" Eli ignored their words. He walked through the market with his head down, his boots muddy and his hands rough from work. Behind him, wrapped in an old blanket, stumbled a thin alien girl. Her skin shimmered with a faint green hue. Mud stuck to her arms. Her hair looked like seaweed, wet and tangled. When Eli first saw her, she had been lying beside the broken fence near his north field, half-conscious, whispering in a strange language. Every instinct told him to walk away, but when her eyes met his, he saw fear, not danger. He remembered what it felt like to be alone, so he lifted her gently and took her home. Now the villagers laughed as he passed. "Hey, Eli, found yourself a wife from the trash pit." "She'll poison your cows before sunset." He said nothing. He only held the blanket tighter around the girl and kept walking. At home, Eli cleaned her up as best he could. The smell was strong, like burnt oil and rainwater, but he didn't care. He boiled herbs, washed her wounds, and gave her warm broth to drink. When she finally opened her eyes, she flinched back from him, terrified. "It's all right," he said softly. "You're safe here." She didn't answer. She didn't seem to understand his words. Instead, she touched his hand carefully, as if testing whether he was real. Then she pointed to herself and whispered, "Lyra." "Lyra," Eli repeated, smiling faintly. "All right then. I'm Eli." From that day, they lived quietly together. Eli worked the fields and Lyra stayed mostly inside, learning simple human words. She tried to help, feeding the chickens, fetching water, but the villagers still mocked them. Sometimes kids would throw stones at the gate and shout, "Beast lover." At night, Eli sat by the small fire, wondering if he had made a mistake. Lyra sat beside him, staring at the flames with wide, curious eyes. She looked fragile, too thin, too pale, but there was something gentle in her presence. One evening, Eli noticed something strange. When Lyra touched a broken plow, its metal glowed faintly and bent back into shape. She looked surprised herself, pulling her hand away quickly. Eli stared. "Did you fix that?" he asked. She only tilted her head and smiled shyly. Later that night, when the moon rose high, Eli woke up to a soft light coming from the barn. He walked quietly across the field. Inside, he saw Lyra kneeling beside a wounded lamb. Her hands glowed softly as she pressed them over the animal's side. The bleeding stopped. The lamb stood up, perfectly healed. Eli froze, half in awe, half in fear. "What are you?" he whispered. Lyra turned slowly, her eyes shining like liquid silver. She didn't speak, but a tear rolled down her cheek. The next morning, word spread again. Someone had seen the light from the barn. The villagers grew restless. "Witchcraft," muttered the blacksmith. "She'll curse us all," said another. Eli ignored them again, but deep inside he felt uneasy. He didn't know who or what Lyra truly was. Yet when he looked at her, sitting by the window feeding birds, he couldn't see a monster. He saw kindness. He saw someone who had suffered just like him. That night the wind howled outside. Eli stepped out to check the fences and noticed something that made his blood run cold: strange footprints in the mud. They were large, clawed, and led directly toward his barn, and then stopped as if the creature had vanished into thin air. He turned slowly toward the house. The windows glowed faintly with the same silver light he'd seen before. Inside, Lyra stood motionless, her eyes open wide, whispering in a voice that didn't sound like her own. Eli's heart pounded. The villagers had mocked him for bringing her home. But now, something deep inside him wondered if they had been right to fear her. The next few days in New Dawn Valley passed in uneasy silence. No one visited Eli's farm anymore. Children who used to play near his fence now took longer routes to avoid his land. Even the local merchants stopped coming to buy his crops. Eli didn't care much about their stares or whispers, but he worried for Lyra. She was getting stronger each day, learning to say a few simple words: food, thank you, Eli. Yet something about her was changing. Her skin glowed faintly at night, and small objects, spoons, tools. Stones sometimes moved near her hands as if touched by invisible wind. One morning, as Eli carried water from the well, he found the bucket already full, though he hadn't drawn it yet. Lyra was standing nearby, her fingers trembling, eyes bright with confusion. She looked scared of herself. Eli gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. You don't have to hide from me." She looked at him sadly and whispered in her broken voice, "Bad? Inside." He shook his head. "No, Lyra, you're not bad. You just don't understand your gift yet." But not everyone saw it as a gift. That evening, dark clouds rolled across the sky. From the nearby hills came the sound of engines, raiders. They were scavengers from the wastelands, men who preyed on small colonies like New Dawn. Villagers ran for cover as the first shots cracked through the air. Eli grabbed his old rifle and rushed outside. Smoke rose from burning houses, and frightened screams echoed across the valley. He told Lyra to stay inside, but she followed him anyway, clutching his coat. "Stay back," he shouted as the raiders' hoverbikes tore through the field. One of them fired at the barn, setting it ablaze. Eli aimed and fired once. His shot hit a wheel, sending a raider crashing into the mud. But there were too many. Then it happened. A blast struck the ground near them, throwing Eli backward. When he looked up, Lyra stood in front of him, arms outstretched, her eyes glowing bright silver. The air shimmered. A shockwave of energy burst outward, knocking every raider off their bikes. The flames around the barn were suddenly snuffed out, replaced by glowing embers that floated gently upward like fireflies. Lyra screamed once and fell to her knees. The light in her eyes faded. Eli crawled to her, heart pounding. Lyra, can you hear me?" She was breathing weakly, but her skin had turned pale. She whispered a single strange word before fainting. "Ryan." Eli didn't know what it meant, but it chilled him. By dawn, the raiders were gone, and the village lay in ruins. But people had seen what happened. They had seen the alien girl unleash power beyond their understanding. When Eli carried her back to the farm, a crowd had already gathered at his gate, faces filled with fear and anger. "You brought this on us," shouted the blacksmith. "She's dangerous," cried another. "We all saw what she did." Eli's jaw tightened. "She saved your lives. She burned half the valley." Someone yelled. That wasn't her fault. The village council arrived before noon. The leader, an older man named Harvin, dismounted his horse and looked at Eli with cold eyes. "We can't risk another outburst," he said. "The alien must be surrendered to the patrol ships. You understand, don't you, Eli?" Eli's hands curled into fists. "She's not a weapon. She's just a girl." "She's a threat," Harvin replied. "If you protect her, you'll answer for it." The council left, promising to return with soldiers by nightfall. Inside the farmhouse, Lyra slept restlessly, her body glowing faintly beneath the blanket. Eli sat beside her, torn between fear and faith. He thought of her healing the lamb, of her gentle eyes, of the way she whispered his name with soft trust. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, he packed supplies, a blanket, dried food, a lantern. He looked once more at the only home he had ever known, then lifted Lyra into his arms. Outside, the wind howled through the fields. The sound of distant engines echoed again. Soldiers this time, not raiders. Eli whispered, "Hold on, Lyra. We're leaving." As he stepped into the dark woods, lightning flashed across the valley. Behind him, the village bells rang, the warning signal. The hunt had begun. The night sky tore open with thunder as Eli pushed through the muddy forest path, carrying Lyra in his arms. Rain poured down like a waterfall, soaking his coat and blinding his eyes. Each step was heavy, but he didn't stop. Behind them, the sound of engines grew louder, metal machines cutting through the storm. The soldiers were close. "Just a little further," he whispered. Lyra's head rested weakly against his shoulder, her silver hair plastered to her face. She barely breathed. The lightning flashed, showing the narrow trail ahead. Eli knew these woods better than anyone. He used to hunt here before the harvest seasons grew thin. Now that knowledge was his only hope. He crossed a shallow stream, moving fast, careful not to leave clear footprints. By midnight, he reached the foot of the mountains. The storm raged harder, the wind howling like an angry beast. There, hidden behind thick vines, was an old abandoned mining tunnel. It had been empty for decades, just a place for ghosts and memories. Eli kicked away the rocks at the entrance and slipped inside. The darkness swallowed them whole. He set Lyra down on a blanket, then lit his lantern. The warm light flickered across her pale skin. She looked fragile, almost transparent, like she was fading away. He pressed a hand to her forehead. "You're burning up," he said softly. Her eyes fluttered open. "Eli," she whispered. "You." "Run," he shook his head. "Not without you." Lyra tried to lift her hand, but it trembled. A faint silver glow pulsed under her skin. "They want me. I can fix the ship," Eli frowned. "What ship?" Lyra closed her eyes, her voice weak. "Crashed long ago. My people, hunted. My power in can heal, but they use it for pain." Eli finally understood. She wasn't just an alien refugee. She was something far more valuable, something the world wanted to capture, control, or destroy. He wrapped her in the blanket and sat beside her as thunder rolled above. "You're safe here," he promised, though his voice shook. "We'll wait out the storm. Then we'll find your ship." Lyra looked at him through half-lidded eyes. "Why, help me?" Eli smiled faintly. "Because once someone helped me when I didn't deserve it." "That's what makes us human, Lyra. We don't turn away from pain." For a moment, silence filled the cave, just the soft crackle of rain outside and the slow, steady sound of two hearts trying to survive. Then Eli froze. He heard it, the faint echo of boots on stone. Someone else was in the tunnel. He blew out the lantern and held his breath. The darkness pressed in around them. He could hear the faint buzz of an energy scanner, the click of a rifle being reloaded. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "Eli," she whispered. "Shh." He pressed a finger to his lips. The footsteps came closer, measured, patient, confident. Whoever it was knew they were here. Eli grabbed a rusted metal rod from the ground and positioned himself near the tunnel wall. The light from a helmet lamp cut through the darkness, a single soldier, his armor bearing the mark of the Colonial Patrol. The man's voice echoed coldly. "Farmer Eli Horn, you are harboring a Class 7 bioform. Hand her over and you will not be harmed." Eli gritted his teeth. "She's not a bioform. She's alive. She saved your people. Not my concern." The soldier raised his rifle. "Last warning." Lyra stirred, her hands shaking. "No more fight," she whispered. "Please." Eli tightened his grip on the metal rod. "You'll have to go through me first." The soldier took a step forward. Then the tunnel shook. A deep hum filled the air. Rocks trembled. Lyra's eyes opened wide, glowing brighter than ever before. Silver light flowed from her hands, crawling up the walls like living veins. The soldier froze, staring in disbelief. What's happening?" A pulse of light exploded outward. The rifle flew from his hands, smashing against the wall. The energy field wrapped around him, lifting him into the air before throwing him backward through the tunnel. The echo of his scream vanished into the storm. Eli turned toward Lyra, terrified and amazed. "Lyra, what did you do?" She looked at him with tears in her shining eyes. "Protect you." The glow faded and she collapsed again. Eli caught her before she hit the ground. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Outside, the thunder quieted. The rain eased. Only the soft drip of water echoed in the darkness. Eli held her close, staring into the flickering lantern flame. He didn't know how long they could keep running or who else was coming, but he knew one thing. He would protect her, no matter the cost. Somewhere deep in the mountains beyond the storm, a faint blue light blinked through the clouds, a distress beacon, finally reactivated, and far above the colony, something ancient and powerful was already answering the call. The storm had passed, leaving the mountains cold and still. Water dripped from the rocks, echoing softly through the tunnels. Eli sat beside Lyra, his jacket wrapped around her shoulders. Her breathing was shallow, but her skin had regained a faint silver glow. He hadn't slept. His mind was racing. Soldiers would return soon, stronger, faster, better armed. Hiding in the caves would only delay the inevitable. He needed a plan. When dawnlight touched the tunnel mouth, Lyra stirred. Her voice was weak. "Eli, they will come again." "I know," he said quietly. "But I won't let them take you." Lyra shook her head. "You don't understand. They hunt my kind. We heal. They destroy. My power feeds them." Eli frowned. "Feeds them?" She nodded slowly. "My energy makes weapons stronger. Makes soldiers live longer. My people refused to serve. They destroyed our ships. I escaped." Eli's stomach turned. He finally understood why the soldiers wanted her so badly. She wasn't just a refugee, she was a resource, a living tool for power. He looked toward the tunnel entrance where the faint light filtered through. Then we'll have to reach your ship before they do. Maybe there's something left there we can use. Lyra's eyes widened. Ship? Far? Across desert? Eli smiled slightly. Then we'd better start walking. He helped her stand. She was weak, but her determination shone through her trembling hands. Together they began the long trek through the narrow mountain paths. Hours passed. The valley stretched below them, green, wet, and full of smoke where the village once stood. Eli could see patrols moving along the roads. He and Lyra hid behind boulders, moving only when clouds shadowed the land. At midday they found an old hunter's cabin built into a cliff. Inside, Eli found dry clothes, canned food, and an old plasma pistol. He checked the battery, barely charged, but better than nothing. While he searched, Lyra sat near the fire, tracing shapes in the ash with her fingers. The patterns glowed faintly. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Calling," she whispered. "If ship's still alive, it will answer." Eli crouched beside her. "You can contact it?" She nodded, her silver eyes flickering. "But power is small. I need time." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then I'll buy you that time." Before he could say more, a sudden crack of a branch outside froze him in place. He motioned for silence and peered through a crack in the wooden wall. A shadow moved, heavy boots, armor glinting faintly. Another soldier. Eli gripped the plasma pistol and whispered, "Stay here." He stepped outside quietly, keeping low. The rain had stopped and steam rose from the wet earth. The soldier was scanning the area with a glowing wrist device. Eli moved behind him, heart hammering. When the soldier turned, Eli struck with a piece of metal pipe, knocking the scanner away. The soldier stumbled but grabbed Eli's arm, throwing him against a tree. Eli gasped in pain, the plasma pistol sliding into the mud. The man aimed his rifle. Then Lyra appeared at the door, her eyes bright with fury. "Stop!" Her voice echoed like thunder. The air shimmered. The soldier froze, paralyzed, as a glowing field wrapped around him. His armor sparked and he fell to his knees, gasping. Lyra's hand shook violently. "No, more pain." Eli grabbed her shoulders. "It's enough." The light faded. The soldier collapsed, alive but unconscious. Lyra's knees buckled and Eli caught her. "You shouldn't have used your power," he said softly. "It's killing you." She looked at him weakly. "I protect you." Eli held her close, his throat tight. He realized then that this wasn't just about saving her. It was about choosing what kind of man he would be. The kind who bowed to fear or the kind who stood for compassion, even in a cruel universe. He looked down at her sleeping face. "I made my choice," he whispered. That night the sky cleared. A strange blue shimmer flickered far off on the horizon, the same direction Lyra had pointed to before. Her ship, Eli stood at the door watching the light. His path was clear now. Tomorrow they would cross the desert together. But as he turned back toward the fire, he saw something glowing in the soldier's dropped scanner, a transmission signal blinking red. They'd been found again. The next morning, the mountains lay quiet under a pale sunrise. Mist rolled through the valleys, soft and silver. Eli packed what little food they had left and checked the direction of the faint blue shimmer far across the horizon, the signal of Lyra's ship. It pulsed like a star calling them home. Lyra stood weakly near the cabin door, her cloak fluttering in the cold wind. Her strength was fading, but her spirit still burned. "Eli," she said softly, "the ship can heal this world. If we reach it, I can fix everything." Eli smiled faintly. "Then that's where we're going." They left the mountains and crossed the wide valley where Eli's farm once stood. Smoke from the burned village had thinned, leaving behind blackened soil and empty homes. The people who once mocked him were gone, scattered or hiding. The silence felt heavier than the storm ever had. As they reached the farm, Lyra stopped. The fields were dead, dry, brown, lifeless. Eli's crops, once green and full, were nothing but dust. He clenched his fists, heartbreaking. "This was my life," he whispered. "Everything I built." Lyra knelt down and touched the earth with her trembling hand. The soil shimmered faintly beneath her fingers. The color spread, first a faint green, then deep and alive. New shoots of wheat began to rise where there had been nothing but dirt. Eli stared in disbelief. "Lyra, what are you doing?" Her voice was soft. "Giving back what I took. Life must return. Within minutes, the field was alive again. The wind carried the scent of fresh grass and tiny flowers bloomed near their feet. Even the air felt lighter. Eli turned to her, stunned. "You saved it," Lyra smiled weakly. "No, you saved me. I only followed your heart." But the miracle didn't go unnoticed. From the nearby hills, a few villagers appeared, thin, dirty, and scared. They stopped at the edge of the field, staring at the sight before them. "Is that Eli's land?" one whispered. "It's growing again." An old woman stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "It's her, the alien girl. She's healing the land." Soon more people came. Children, farmers, even Harvin, the council leader who had once ordered her capture. They stood silently, watching as the dead valley came back to life under Lyra's touch. A small boy broke away from the crowd and ran to Eli's fence, carrying a sick puppy in his arms. "Mr. Eli," he shouted. "Can she help him? Please?" Eli looked at Lyra. She nodded and knelt. Her hands glowed faintly as she touched the animal. Within seconds, the puppy opened its eyes, wagging its tail weakly. The boy gasped, then hugged her, whispering, "Thank you." For the first time, Lyra laughed, a small, pure sound that made the villagers smile through their fear. By afternoon, the once empty farm had become a gathering place. People brought their sick, their hurt, their broken tools, and dying crops. Lyra healed what she could, though every act drained her more. Eli begged her to rest. "You don't have to save everyone," he said. She looked at him gently. "If I can heal, I must. It's my reason to live." As the sun set, the valley glowed golden again. Hope returned to a place that had forgotten it. But just as peace began to grow, a deep hum filled the sky. Shadows moved above the clouds, government ships descending fast. Their metallic voices echoed through loudspeakers. "Attention civilians! Step away from the alien entity. She is classified as restricted property under interstellar law." The crowd panicked. Soldiers in armored suits surrounded the farm. Harvin tried to reason with them, shouting, "She's no weapon. She's saving us." The commander ignored him. "Our orders are clear." Eli stepped forward, standing in front of Lyra. "You'll have to go through me." The commander's helmet turned toward him. "You're protecting an alien asset, farmer." "That's treason." Eli didn't move. "She's not an asset. She's my friend. My family." Behind him, Lyra rose, weak but radiant. Her voice trembled. "Please, no fight." "I will go if they stop hurting." Eli grabbed her hand. "No, you're not theirs anymore." The soldiers aimed their rifles. The villagers moved closer, forming a wall around Eli and Lyra. Men, women, and children stood shoulder to shoulder, silent but firm. The commander hesitated. "Stand down," he shouted, but no one moved. Then, from the sky, a distant boom echoed. A blue light cut through the clouds, Lyra's ship awakening at last. Its engines roared like thunder, sending waves of energy across the valley. The soldiers looked up in shock as the ground shook beneath them. Eli looked at Lyra, who was smiling faintly through tears. "They came," she whispered. "My people heard me." He held her tighter. "Then let's show them what love looks like." The roar from the sky grew louder as the blue ship descended through the clouds, its light cutting across the valley like a sunrise. The ground trembled under its energy. Eli stood in front of Lyra, his heart pounding as soldiers around them raised their weapons and the frightened villagers backed away. The commander barked orders into his headset. "All units, defensive formation." That ship is not cleared for landing. But Eli could already see the truth. This was no warship. Its hull was cracked, old, and scarred by time. It moved slowly, almost gently, until it hovered over the field where Lyra had healed the earth. From its underside, a column of blue light poured down, bathing the land in warmth. Lyra stepped forward, her hand trembling. "It's my home, or what is left of it." Eli caught her arm. "If you go to them, they'll take you away again." She looked at him with tears glimmering in her silver eyes. "I must try. They will not hurt me now. Not if they see your people." The soldiers opened fire first. Beams of red plasma ripped through the air, striking the blue column of light, but each blast fizzled harmlessly, absorbed by the energy field. The villagers screamed and ducked for cover. Eli pushed Lyra behind a plow and fired a warning shot from his old pistol. "Stop shooting," he shouted. "Can't you see they're not attacking?" The commander ignored him. "Target the alien. Full containment protocol." Then something unexpected happened. The villagers, once fearful, once mocking, began to move forward. The old woman who had thanked Lyra for saving her grandson took a step past Eli. Then the boy with the puppy followed, clutching the animal in his arms. "She saved us," the woman shouted. "She saved our crops and our children." Harvin, the council leader, walked forward and raised his hand. "This is our land. You will not take her." One by one, the people of the valley formed a wall around Eli and Lyra, their eyes filled with quiet determination. The soldiers hesitated. They hadn't expected this. Lyra rose slowly, the blue light wrapping around her like a gentle breeze. "They stand for me," she whispered. "Humans and protect the weak." Eli nodded. "That's what we do." The commander shouted again, "Last warning. Disperse or face arrest." But no one moved. The blue ship pulsed brighter. A door opened high above, and from it descended 3 figures, tall, elegant, their skin silver blue like polished glass. They wore long robes instead of armor. Their eyes glowed softly with recognition as they looked at Lyra. One of them spoke, his voice calm but strong. "Child of Saran, you are far from home." Lyra's knees buckled. "You came—" "I called you," the alien leader nodded. "We heard your cry, but we came too late. Many of your kind are gone. You are the last healer." Eli's heart sank at those words. The commander raised his weapon again. "Stay where you are! You have no right to land on human soil." The alien leader turned his gaze on the soldiers. "You call yourselves protectors, yet you hunt the innocent. Tell me, is that what your kind stands for?" The soldiers hesitated, lowering their guns slightly. The commander gritted his teeth. "We enforce the law." "And what law protects compassion?" The alien asked quietly. "What law rewards mercy?" No one answered. The rain began to fall again, soft light cleansing. Lyra turned to Eli, her voice trembling. "I can end this. I can give this world peace, but I need to release all my energy. I may not survive." Eli grabbed her hand tightly. "No, you can't. There has to be another way." She smiled weakly. "You taught me love, Eli. Now let me show what love can do." Before he could stop her, she stepped into the blue column of light. The air shimmered as her body glowed brighter and brighter, until the whole valley shone like dawn. The soldiers shielded their eyes. The villagers fell silent. The light spread across the land, healing the burned houses, restoring the rivers, bringing new green life to the soil. The energy reached the clouds, clearing the storm. When the light faded, the ship hovered silently. Lyra lay in the center of the field, motionless but peaceful. Eli ran to her, falling to his knees. "Lyra, please open your eyes." For a moment there was no sound. Then faintly she whispered, "No more fear, only love." Her eyes flickered once, then closed forever. The alien leader placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "Her gift will live on in your world. She believed in your kind more than her own." The ship slowly ascended, vanishing into the bright sky. Eli sat in the glowing field that night, surrounded by villagers who no longer laughed or mocked. They brought candles, placing them around the spot where Lyra had fallen. He looked up at the stars and whispered, "They called her ugly. They called her alien. But she was the most human of us all." Weeks passed since the day the sky turned blue with Lyra's final light. The valley, once dry and broken, now shimmered with new life. Rivers flowed again where cracks once split the ground. The crops grew tall, golden, and endless. Birds returned. The air smelled of rain and wildflowers, but Eli walked through it all in silence. His boots brushed against green fields, yet his heart felt empty. The laughter of children playing nearby should have comforted him, but every smile reminded him of her. The villagers often visited him. They brought gifts, food, and gratitude. "She saved us, Eli," they would say softly. "You both did." He would nod, thank them, and then return to his small house, the one Lyra had filled with light. Her chair remained by the window, untouched. Her old blanket still hung over the edge of the bed, faintly smelling of wild rain. Every night Eli sat outside watching the stars. He wondered if her people truly reached home, and if she could somehow see what she had left behind. One evening, a soft knock came at his door. It was Harvin, the council leader. His face looked older, lined with regret. "Eli," he said quietly, "there's something you should see." Eli followed him through the valley to the hill above the farm. There, a strange sight awaited them, a silver tree growing in the center of the field. Its roots glowed faintly beneath the soil, and its leaves shimmered blue like starlight. It started growing the night she passed, Harvin said. We've tried to study it, but it heals whatever touches it. Animals gather around it every evening. It's like the land itself remembers her. Eli stepped closer. The tree hummed softly, the same sound he'd once heard when Lyra used her power. He placed his palm on the trunk and warmth spread through his chest. The pain in his body, the cuts, the scars, the ache of exhaustion melted away. He smiled sadly. She's still here, he whispered. News of the miracle tree spread across nearby colonies. Scientists came, soldiers too, but this time no one tried to take it. Every attempt to harm it failed gently. Their tools refused to cut it, and machines near it stopped working as if humbled by its peace. The people of New Dawn Valley rebuilt their homes. The laughter returned stronger than before. They built a small stone monument near the tree. On it they carved simple words. Here rests Lyra of Siran, the healer from the stars. She taught us that love is the greatest power in the universe. Every evening, villagers came to light candles beneath her name. Some prayed, some sang, and some just stood in silence, feeling the wind move through the glowing branches. Eli spent most days tending the land. The crops grew faster now, healthier than ever. He didn't have to water them much. Rain always seemed to fall when needed, never too much, never too little. It was as if the valley itself was alive. One night, as Eli sat beneath the silver tree, he noticed a small glowing seed drop from one of its branches. It pulsed faintly in the grass. He picked it up carefully. As soon as he touched it, a familiar voice echoed softly in his mind. Gentle, like a whisper carried on the wind. Eli, the world still needs kindness. Keep planting it. He froze, heart pounding. It was her voice, Lyra's. Tears filled his eyes. He held the seed close to his chest and whispered, I will. The next morning, Eli planted the seed on the far end of his field. By dusk, a small sprout had already begun to grow, glowing faintly under the sunlight. The villagers gathered, watching in awe. Another one, a child whispered. Another tree, Eli nodded. Not just a tree, he said quietly. A reminder. Years later, the story of the smelly, ugly alien girl became something else entirely. No one remembered the cruel laughter anymore. They told tales instead of the girl who healed the world, how a simple farmer's compassion had changed the course of two species. The valley was renamed Siran's Hope, in her honor. Travelers from distant colonies came to see the silver trees that now dotted the land, each one glowing softly at night, breathing light into the world. And every year, on the anniversary of the Great Light, the people gathered under the largest tree. Eli would stand before them, older now but still strong, and say the same words. She came to us broken and we called her ugly. But she left us beautiful. Remember that? Kindness may begin small, but its light never dies. He would look up at the stars, his heart full, and whisper the words only she could hear. Sleep well. Lyra, your love still grows. The end. Moral message. True beauty lies not in what we see but in what we give. Even the smallest act of kindness can heal a world lost in fear.